Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Sophie.
I'm Office Bloke Aidan.
I'm G.
Okay, back to the 1980s.
Back
Yes.
in time.
Kind of, anyway.
Long before you guys were even born.
Yeah, well, I was a whippersnapper.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I used to smoke in the 80s, as I told everyone. I was 7.
Cigars.
It's not big and it's not clever, you know.
Yeah, cigars, yeah. Proper big cigars.
A big pipe.
Big pipe, yeah. Anything I can get my hands on. This is foods from the 1980s that are weirdly making a comeback.
What do you think they could be?
I don't have a clue.
Do you know what? I bet it's going to be like a prawn cocktail.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, prawn cocktails are weirdly making a
A
comeback,
steak
aren't they?
Diane
Yeah.
and a trifle.
Yeah, definitely trifle.
Trifle
I
was
can't think
big
of
in the
any.
80s.
Yeah.
Deviled eggs?
Maybe
Are they
things
def-
like rabbit.
Deviled eggs.
Rabbit,
Do people eat
tripe.
I think
liver?
Yeah, liver.
Yeah,
Yeah, we used to
could
have a
be,
lot of liver.
yeah.
It was like cheap food, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
But it was more, if you remember when you used to go for a meal, which was not very often, maybe once a year on a special occasion, you'd always have like a steak.
I don't know. I'm saying I never went for a meal when I was a kid out.
You went once. You
When
told
I was for my sister-in-law's birthday when I was about 15.
Yeah, you had
First
that
time.
meal at Weatherspoons.
Yeah, probably.
Pub food.
Yeah.
No, did you not go somewhere in Chorlton?
We went somewhere really posh. Yeah, that my dad knew the owner.
Yeah, and it
And,
probably wasn't posh. It just
Probably wasn't.
seemed
Probably
like
wasn't the
posh.
time for us, but my
Yeah.
dad knew the owner. It was quite nice inside. It was a hotel
Yeah.
sort of thing. So we went in there.
Was it
but
the
that's-
Cornelius?
Okay, something like that. Yeah.
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 I do,
So it
I
was
do-
quite nice. Yeah.
I do remember you saying you went for a
Yeah.
meal once.
Once, yeah. It was the only time we had anything that was different is if we went to the chippy on a Friday. Occasionally, maybe once a month we had a chippy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was our treat.
Yeah, every Friday I used to get a bag of sweets from the indoor market.
No.
But you know the sad thing
Pushing
is
the boat
about having a
out.
chippy. Here's something, right? Sad thing is for me, I'm having a chippy. Is I was never allowed to order. I just had to have a bit of everyone else's.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why were you not allowed to get your own?
So
Because it
you
was too
just
much,
have-
so just-
so
you
you
say
just
just-
have a bit of everybody's chips.
Yeah. And then
And
sort of
then a
someone
bite
would
of
cut.
someone's sausage.
Yeah, someone would cut a little bit of sausage off, and someone would cut a bit of the pie off. And then when I'd sit at the table neither because there was no room. I had to stand at the sink.
You're just getting all. Mate, I reckon you maybe they just didn't like you.
It's funny, I know none of them talk to me now. True stories. Yeah. Funny.
No, anyway, yeah, foods from the 1980s that are weirdly making a comeback. Huh?
It turns out that we're just far enough away from the 1980s to be hit with some serious nostalgia. In today's terrifying 21st century world, we're craving a little simplicity, and that includes some comfort foods from better times. These 80s foods are making a total comeback. The ennetta, a beloved mashup of ice cream cake and icebox cake with wavy alternating layers of vanilla ice cream and chocolate candy, had its debut in the UK in 1982 and hit the US soon after. Although it has remained a beloved dessert in the UK, it was discontinued in the US in the 1990s. It took a few decades, but on January 5th, 2021, a press release from the parent company of ice cream brand Good Humor had some good news for fans. Fans have clamored for Viennetta's return for almost 30 years. In 2021, Good Humor grants their wish. Although it's unclear why Viennetta ever disappeared from American supermarkets and frozen food aisles in the first place, it's easy to infer why Good Humor was eager to bring it back now. In addition to giving shoppers a much-needed pick-me-up, it made financial sense. Over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, frozen foods, which had been losing market share in recent years, had made a huge comeback. And the winner among frozen food categories has been ice cream, according to the National Frozen and Refrigerated Foods Association, with sales representing $6.7 billion. Forbes wrote about the return of the 1980s style wine cooler back in 2019, and technically, it's true. The iconic wine cooler maker, Bartles and
Yeah, wine coolers. I forgot about them.
But also they had vodka coolers.
They did. Well, this is what they're getting into now because they had quite a few different coolers.
Yeah.
They had all different types, didn't
Yeah,
they?
but I remember when I lived in Canada, and when we had our day off, we used to go and buy vodka coolers.
Yeah, vodka
And they were
coolers,
all
yeah.
like flavoured.
Grapefruit and green tea.
I bet that's nice.
I bet that's
you know.
nice, yeah.
Cucumber.
You don't see any more neither. Is that like hooch and things like that?
No, yeah.
Oh
Alcoholic
yeah, I like
lemonade.
hooch,
Yeah.
yeah. They sell
What's
like
it?
home
What is
bargains
that?
and stuff.
Do
It's
they?
like a flavoured beer.
No, it was like a alcoholic lemonade.
Alcoholic
Yes,
lemonade.
that's
what I'm
it,
saying,
yeah,
like-
yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
And they had like alcoholic orange, alcoholic
Well,
brew.
it's like a seltzer.
Yeah, it was like an orange juice.
It just tasted like orange juice.
Yeah.
It just tasted like soda, but it was
Or
alcoholic.
lemon. Yeah, lemonade.
Like,
It
It's like a hard
cola.
seltzer almost like.
Yeah.
That's what that is really. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
but when we go away on away games, you guys always have beers, and I don't drink beers.
You drink that stuff, don't you?
So I buy the little cans of like mojito and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
because
love
it's
them.
such a long trip that I need to wee every
Well,
2
we
minutes.
went on the bus and the two lads
Two
sat
lads,
next
two
to
big
us
lads,
about,
like, two big
about the
lads,
same
lads.
age as
Yeah.
me, like 20 years old they are. And they're just sitting there, some cans of strawberry daiquiris.
Love it.
and then they get out.
Right.
It's like, should we start doing shots? And then he gets out a tequila rose.
Drink the whole bottle.
Yeah, you do. We smashed.
Well, because it's such a long trip and you need to wee all the time and there's no toilets on the bus, it's easier to have little ones.
We have a jerry can on ours.
I'm not doing a wee on a bus with a load of people.
James had come out with a pre-packaged canned cocktail that is both fizzy and made with wine. However, what is in those cans along with the fizzy wine is not what people who came of wine drinking age during the wine cooler 80s think of as wine coolers. The wine coolers of the 1980s were made from wine, carbonated water, and sugar, which made them as close as you could get to a commercially bottled wine spritzer, which is just wine diluted with soda. It's not that anyone really needed a pre-bottled wine spritzer when all you need to make your own wine spritzer at home is a glass of wine and a spritz. But 1980s wine coolers had their fans. So many, in fact, that wine coolers became big business, with Gallo, Seagram's, and Bartles and James as a few of the most popular players. But then Congress got involved, and long story short, made wine blending bad business, and became a not-so-lucrative one at that. In response, cooler manufacturers started replacing wine with cheap malt liquor, which is how Zima came to exist. On the plus side, taking wine out of the equation enabled beverage manufacturers to get super creative with their flavors. On the negative
Is it Ringo Starr? I thought it was bloody young on
Bloody
there.
Ringo.
Bloody Ringo.
side, is a wine cooler that waters down its wine with malt liquor really a wine cooler? When bread bowls started turning up as dinnerware and partyware in the 1980s, they weren't exactly new. Fact was, bread bowls have been around since at least as far back as the Middle Ages, when repurposing a stale loaf of bread by hollowing it out and filling it up with hot stew, soup, or porridge became a way to cope amid famine conditions. Accordingly, the advent of bread bowls in the 1980s represented a renaissance of sorts, though it was an ironic one, given that bread bowls made their 1980s return as a way of giving soup merchants an excuse to charge more for their wares. Today, bread bowls appear to be riding the wave of a comeback once again. And once again, the comeback may represent the very...
I do.
Yeah,
I
I like it
I've
with like
never-
a spinach and artichoke dip.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to a restaurant or anything and seen a bread bowl.
No,
Yeah.
I've not.
Well, there used to be a place called Panera, and that's where that says there, it says Panera Bread.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they used to do
That's
soup.
right. Yeah.
That looks
Yeah.
perfect.
It is, it's lovely.
Yeah, but I'd prefer it
I'll
with
get
the,
you one
with
with
the dip.
tomato soup in it.
That's probably the only one I'd really have.
antithesis of the purpose that bread bowls were originally meant to serve, because this comeback appears to have been engineered single-handedly by bakery cafe fast casual restaurant giant Panera Bread. And well, if Panera Bread says it's a hot new trend, then who is to argue?
Welcome to medieval times. I'll be your serving wench, Melinda. Might I fetch you something from the barkeep?
Nissin kicked off America's love of ramen in 1970, when it first started appearing on grocery store shelves everywhere in the States. Ramen rose to become super trendy in the 1980s because it was the perfect way to put an affordable but still tasty meal on the table, and it was also just right for the Cold War. That was then in full swing at the time, and people had every right to be concerned. Ramen helped. Everyone knew these packets of noodles would survive a nuclear winter. Not exactly cheerful, is it? As far as college kids go, ramen noodles never really fell from favor. Instant ramen remains their go-to meal and late-night snack it has always been. However, in recent years, ramen has also taken on a more sophisticated, worldly vibe that has nothing to do with instant noodles, styrofoam cups, or college kids for that matter. And that is its own kind of comeback. As of 2021, you can find restaurants dedicated to ramen in major cities everywhere. In 2019 alone, the World Instant Noodle Foundation says 106.4 billion servings of ramen were eaten worldwide, working out to 290 million per day.
The World Instant Noodle Association.
Who would have thought?
I'm sure they're making these up because they had one a minute ago before, and I was like, "There's an association for that."
What,
so
the Vienna
like
ice
frozen dessert or something association.
Yeah.
But this ramen's are huge now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's everywhere, isn't it?
You go some even them street vendors.
Yeah.
Have you seen the queues to get the ramen?
Yeah.
It's mental.
Well, that place round the corner from us, next door to Rustic.
Yeah.
They do these massive bowls of ramen noodles.
Yeah.
Really good.
Just make a racket when they're eating them.
Yeah.
Today, the U.S. is the 6th biggest consumer of ramen and the biggest outside of Asia. And yes, in case you were wondering, tradition dictates that you are duty-bound to slurp your ramen loudly.
Something get proper.
I don't like the water in it.
That's my favourite bit.
Steve Henson may have already had his mayonnaise and buttermilk-based
go out of
salad
fashion?
dressing in mind, but things really kicked off when, in 1954, he and his wife moved to California and opened a guest ranch, the Hidden Valley. They served the dressing, of course, and it became so popular that guests started requesting souvenir jars. In 1983, Hidden Valley Ranch salad dressing was introduced in supermarkets, and an obsession spread across America, peaking in 1986 with the introduction of Cool Ranch Doritos. For a good long time after that, ranch dressing remained a part of Americana, but it was widely reviled by foodies who maintained that it was, for some reason, unworthy of a place in a real kitchen. Fortunately, that attitude seems to have gone the way of the dodo. At first, that comeback might have been characterized as mildly transgressive, with people buying into ranch dressing primarily because it represented a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I could eat a whole bottle.
Yeah, I could eat a whole bottle too.
Before too long, however, ranch dressing and ranch seasoning started appearing in places that would never have tolerated it in the past. In upscale kitchens, drizzled on pizza, marinating lamb, and acting as the new dipping sauce for chicken wings. With the 21st century bringing with it a whole new national wing obsession, ranch dressing is now truly having a moment. Speaking of ranch dressing, let's talk about the food that's helping boost the one-time guilty pleasure's popularity, the buffalo wing. Buffalo chicken wings rose to prominence in the 1980s when health-conscious consumers started favoring boneless, skinless breast meat. This left chicken suppliers with a chicken wing surplus. Hoping to rid themselves of that surplus, chicken suppliers took to selling wings on the cheap. Restaurants and bars saw this as an opportunity to purchase inexpensive protein, spice it, fry it, and sell it for cheap, or even with a reasonable markup. As an extra added bonus,
Best chicken restaurant ever, Hooters.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know the only reason you went there, mate.
So you could colour in. Yeah, you used to have colouring competitions and took you to, like a proper dad would.
Yeah.
So he's like 2-year-old.
You and your brother.
It's funny that you only took me when Mum was away.
Remember when
Is she going to be our new mummy?
Daddy, what are you doing?
Do you remember when our Heath came over to visit?
Yeah.
We were in Atlantic City. We walked past Hooters and he didn't look. And Darren went, "Have you seen Hooters?" And he went, "No, what is it?" And he goes to the window and looks in like, and they're all just stood there like that.
Staring
and he
at
was
him. He's at the window with his hands on the window. What are you doing? When you told me to look in, like, no,
No, I didn't.
the chicken in there is
Yeah.
good though. It's a
Chicken
great
sandwich
restaurant.
is
It's
really
just a great restaurant.
Yeah.
I've always known buffalo wings as being very, very popular, though. I wouldn't have thought.
No, same with ranch. I have
Yeah.
ranch dressing all the time.
Yeah. When we can get it.
Yeah, I might get it from Asda or Tesco. They
Yeah.
sell it in that Paul Newman brand.
Yeah, but there's only one or two brands over here.
Yeah.
Over there, there's like loads
Yeah,
of
yeah,
different
yeah.
ones.
Probably a whole aisle dedicated
And
to
I'm sure,
Yeah,
correct me if I'm
dressing.
wrong, you
I
can
think Hidden
buy
Valley's over here as
a
well.
packet that you mix to make ranch dressing.
Oh, okay, but that buffalo wings is like, you can't just watching the match. Remember, I used to go in the bars on Monday Night Football. Big bucket of wings, like $1 a wing or whatever it was, 10-cent wings or whatever they were. And you buy like a big buckets of them, just sit there eating chicken wings all night watching the football.
decent, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Classic.
Drinking beer.
Yeah, pint of beer.
Yep.
bonus. Spicy chicken wings tend to make people thirsty, which translates loosely into more beer gets sold. On top of that, all of this was happening as sports bars started popping up across America. It was the perfect storm of circumstances. And while chicken wings were already well entrenched in American culture, people started to truly begin rediscovering both chicken and chicken wings.
Wingstop.
Oh, chicken wings.
Kitchen's closed until dinner. Just got cold stuff and desserts.
Boy, some chicken wings had really hit the spot.
In part, that may be due to the fact that chicken wings are one of the easiest foods to order and enjoy via takeout at a time when takeout was one of the only options for accessing fast food. And this is despite the fact that at one point during the pandemic, chicken wings were associated with a nasty rumor that one could catch COVID-19 from frozen food packaging. That rumor has been thankfully disproven, and chicken wings are here to stay. Sugary breakfast cereals have been around since 1939, and ironically, Jim Rex, the inventor of the first sugary cereal, appropriately named Ranger Joe Wheat Honeys, came up with the idea because he was horrified by how much sugar he saw his kids dumping into their bowls of non-sugar cereal. Post's Sugar Crisp came next, according to Women's Health. Released in 1948, it was first in a long line of sugar-laden cereals that would soon become the norm. By the 1980s, sugar was the name of the game, and once sugar cereals started partnering with all of the kids' favorite television shows, they locked down the interest of American children. By the 1990s, however, consumers were becoming increasingly health conscious, and sugar cereals came to shoulder at least some of the blame for the increase in obesity among American children. Defensively, many sugar cereals began dropping the word sugar from their names. Now it appears.
I think you and Declan were probably the only children that weren't allowed sugary cereals.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I kind of, like, prefer...
Yeah, I don't like sugar on cereal.
No.
Used to. But do you not see sugar puffs anymore, do you? That's what them sugar ones...
Yeah.
What do they call them? Sugar...
Honey puffs.
No, sugar something they call it. Sugar canes, was it? No,
They
sugar...
were. But what we
Come on,
call
they're
sugar
called.
puffs, they're disgusting.
I used to like them.
Yeah, I
They
used to
make
love
your wee
sugar
smell
puffs.
funny.
You don't see them anymore, though, do you?
No. But I think it's because a lot of people won't buy them. For
What's your favourite cereal?
Well, I don't like cereal, do I? Because I don't like
Yeah,
milk.
that's true. What's your favourite cereal?
Cornflakes.
Cornflakes.
I think if I had to, I'd have like muesli clusters with yogurt.
Yeah, I really like
What's yours?
granola. I'm really growing on
Granola.
granola.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I really like granola, especially
Yeah.
with all the fruits and stuff.
I
in
would
it.
buy granola to go with my yogurt, but then when I want some, it's gone.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of Cheerios, Weetabix, Rice Krispies, cornflakes.
Curiously cinnamon.
Sorry, what?
That's my favourite. Curiously cinnamon.
Where did he say that, Aldi? I've never even heard of it.
No.
No, it's a brand.
Curiously
It's a brand,
cinnamon.
didn't it?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
little squares.
Yeah, little cinnamon
Oh, have you
squares.
ever tried Crave?
Yes, I
No,
love Crave
I
as
do
well.
love Crave.
Yeah. The
Crave
cinnamon
is a
Crave.
treat though. You can't have it all the time.
No, it's because it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
it
expensive
is.
and it's
And you
unhealthy.
only get about 3 bowls of it.
Yeah,
Never even heard of
and
it.
when Declan comes, you don't
that's
get
the
any.
Crave. It's like little pillows with hazelnut
Yeah.
chocolate
Yeah,
inside.
like the chocolate.
I think
pillows.
the white chocolate one now are like
Yeah.
different ones.
Well, they do loads.
Never heard of
Delicious. Love it.
Can't believe it. It's in the kitchen quite often, mate.
I don't want a kitchen.
Appears that cereal manufacturers have once again been circling around the sugary
That's something I've never
cereals
tried,
they know
but I've always
work
kinda
really
wanted
well. The reason? Dwindling sales. As much as American consumers don't want sugary breakfast cereal, they also don't seem to have any interest in buying breakfast cereal that doesn't come pre-sweetened. Accordingly, cereal manufacturers have been steadily increasing the sugar in their cereals in an attempt to lure back customers that have started looking elsewhere for their breakfasts.
Press pause.
Given
Who is it?
I'm sure. I'm sure it's him. It looks like
it's
him.
it's
like
the-
a kid version.
It is. It's
2.5 Men.
2.5 Men, the
Yeah.
son, yeah.
Isn't it? Looks like him.
I've no idea.
Yeah, and also,
That's another one I want to try. Fruit Loops.
you never tried Fruit
I
Loops?
don't think so. No, you don't get it here.
I gave you some Magic Spoon the other day. They're pretty similar to Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, it's him.
Definitely him, innit?
It was, what's his name?
It was Charlie, innit?
Yeah, and his
His
dad was
brother.
the nerdy one.
And his brother. And
Yeah.
then, I can't remember what his brother was. And then he was the kid.
Yeah,
Can't remember his name in the show.
yeah.
What, he's a kid?
Given the resurgence and popularity of sugar-laden cereals, it shouldn't be all that surprising to learn that sugar-sweetened fruit
The
drink
fact that that was a normal sized bowl. Like, when Shaq was eating that, it looked tiny.
Given the resurgence and popularity of sugar-laden cereals, it shouldn't be all that surprising to learn that sugar-sweetened fruit drinks are coming back into style. Did you notice we didn't say juice? That's because the beloved fruit drinks that had their heyday in the 1980s tended to contain very little actual juice. High C, for one, contained a mere 10% juice. And this remained the case in the 2010s.
Never even heard of it.
USA Today reported, what these fruit drinks did contain was a lot of sugar, often in the form of high fructose corn syrup. High C, which has been around since 1946, enjoyed a huge surge of popularity in the 1980s, thanks in part to the introduction of their Ecto Cooler juice boxes. High C became a mainstay at McDonald's, with the orange lava burst flavor becoming a cult favorite. So then, why did McDonald's discontinue it in 2017? Strangely enough, the decision had less to do with sugar and more to do with licensing obligations. In 2017, McDonald's had recently entered into a partnership with Coca-Cola, makers of Sprite, Tropic Berry, and that would have been a direct conflict. Now, fans of High C Orange Lava Burst can breathe a sigh of relief. On February 21st, 2021, McDonald's announced it was bringing the popular drink back and that it would be available nationwide by summer. You know those tins of flavored popcorn that people send as gifts around the holidays? Well, you can thank the 1980s for that. In 1983, the New York Times wrote, a scant two...
I know the flavours of popcorn.
Yeah.
But
That's what they are.
Never seen a bucket of popcorn that you can buy.
Yeah, they were like that, and they're separate flavours. They've got like plain, and then obviously butter one, and then caramel.
no, like
And,
like
like,
salted
salted.
caramel.
Yeah.
What do you do when you go to the movies? You take your own machine with you? Like your own microwave?
No,
and
you
go
buy
in
it there.
and
No,
plug
but, like-
You usually plug them in it.
But like not at Tesco's and stuff. I'm thinking more like if you go to like just a normal store and it's like buckets of popcorn. Never seen that.
Do you know what you'll
before.
find in TK Maxx when you go at Christmas
Yeah.
time? They sell them there.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. See, I don't trust the food at TK Maxx.
Oh,
though.
it's
It's
brilliant.
a bit
I buy
strange.
loads.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's just like on the side, right near where you pay, and it's just like
No, they have a special section.
Can't trust any food that's at the side near where you pay.
I
That's
buy all
a
like
no-no.
the.
You got any buckets of popcorn? We've got some near the
oils.
front, or we can get you some from right at the back in the warehouse.
yeah, please.
Yeah, got the one in the warehouse. It's sat on a dusty shelf. 60 foot up. With
Forklift.
spiders all over it.
2 years ago, there was plain popcorn and buttered popcorn and caramel popcorn, and a few slightly more exotic flavors such as cinnamon for those who would dare. But now there is pizza-flavored popcorn, watermelon-flavored popcorn, and taco-flavored popcorn, and the stores that
Taco.
sell them are called gourmet shops in the industry. The New York Times also pointed out at the time that about 70% of the country's popcorn is eaten at home, generating about 200 million in sales during 1982, with popcorn confections and other specialty items accounting for another 100 million. Again, that was in 1983, but looking back, it could seem as if the New York Times was penning a future letter to pandemic America, one which predicted the resurgence of home-popped popcorn and popcorn confections at the time, when much of America found themselves stuck at home. The latest varieties of flavored popcorn are wilder than ever, and it's absolutely possible to get popcorn that includes such flavors as fried chicken, Marmite, pumpkin spice,
Marmite.
lemon sherbet, gin and tonic, dark chocolate pretzel, cookies and cream, and bacon and cheddar. Americans started taking a keen interest in French cuisine starting in the 1970s. Some of the fancier French restaurants were serving nouvelle cuisine with all its detailed precision, high-class atmosphere, and a price tag that was just as high class.
Well, our first special tonight is our poisson du jour. It is a loup de mer bleu en verson, served with a plumeur verte de cochon de Piemonte.
On the more casual side of things were restaurants specializing in crepes and fondue. But by the mid-1980s, all these restaurants tended to have one item in common: French onion soup. So ubiquitous was onion soup in those days that it came to be synonymous with steakhouses as well as French restaurants. Although French cuisine in America, with its heavy sauces and hefty price tag, had to move aside and make room for the introduction and rise of other ethnic cuisines, such as Japanese, Thai, Pan-Asian, Northern Italian, and Indian, it appears that French onion soup is on the rise once again, especially at Panera Bread. It took Panera Bread's removal of French onion soup from its menu for its die-hard fans to realize the heartbreak. According to Ad Age, the disappearance of this longtime favorite was met with such outrage and so many complaints that Panera made a wise decision and put it right back on the menu. Although yogurt has been in the US since the early 1900s, frozen yogurt wasn't even invented.
I prefer frozen yogurt over ice cream, 100%.
Yeah. What about frozen custard?
I don't know. I don't think I've tried that.
No.
I'm not really into either of them. I could have one scoop of vanilla. And then
No, like
I'm done.
the natural flavour is the best for me.
Yeah. I just can't. I'm just like...
What, yogurt? Just no flavouring? Just like Greek yogurt?
No, like when you have frozen yogurt, you go into let's say you go into a frozen yogurt shop. The flavours they'll have is vanilla, chocolate, natural strawberry.
So natural's just
Natural,
no
yeah,
flavour.
yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And
I
that's
tried,
that's the nicest flavour.
honey ice cream the other day when I was in Wales. There was just this shop that did like honey ice cream, so we had some and it was delicious.
Really?
Because I hate ice cream, but it like the honey was just
It
lovely.
makes it quite sweet.
Yeah, it was really nice, but it wasn't like too much. It was just the right amount.
Invented until the 1970s. Even then, that first frozen yogurt was designed to be scooped the way you scoop hard ice cream, but it didn't really catch on. Then, in the 1980s, soft-serve frozen yogurt was invented. Marketed as a soft-serve dessert that tasted similar to ice cream, it took off in popularity as consumers began to pay attention to healthy eating and healthy ingredients. And by 1990, frozen yogurt represented 10% of frozen dessert sales. And therein lies the rub. Frozen yogurt was, ultimately, just another frozen dessert. As it turned out, no matter how healthy frozen yogurt might try to be, it's also pretty darn caloric, and we all learned that it wasn't a drastically better choice than ice cream. The disappointment was so palpable that Seinfeld mined it for the tragic comedy of it all. But guess what eventually has made a comeback?
Maybe your yogurt isn't so non-fat. Oh, guess again, Tubby.
Frozen yogurt. Only now it's not meant to taste like ice cream so much as like tangy yogurt, and now its marketing didn't necessarily promise low calories, low fat, or low anything, according to the Seattle Times. Lean Cuisine's pre-prepared and calorie-conscious frozen meals debuted in the US in 1981. Since then, the frozen food brand has been available in supermarkets across the country. However, it lost some considerable footing over the years, according to The Atlantic, which reported in 2014 that America's then 60-year-long love affair with frozen prepared meals was going through a bit of a rough patch. In fact, there was talk at the time of Nestle unloading the brand altogether. Good thing they hung in there, because frozen foods have been enjoying a huge comeback. In April 2020, the National Frozen and Refrigerated Foods Association reported that even before the pandemic, the frozen foods department of grocery stores nationwide had grown $918 million in the preceding 52 weeks, with sales totaling $54.6 billion. As the months went on and more restaurants and fast casual businesses continued to keep their doors shut and services limited due to the COVID-19 outbreak, demand soared even further. Apparently, seeing a great opportunity, Nestle grabbed it, relaunching more than half its existing offerings and introducing brand extension Life Cuisine. Quiche became popular in the 1970s and was still enjoying its heyday in the early 1980s when it was served in countless restaurants on stoneware plates with melon wedges, grapes, and some kind of green shrub. That's what the New York Times wrote in 1987 in an apparent attempt to help stage a comeback for the dairy-rich meal and a pastry. That comeback had become necessary thanks to the publication of Bruce Feirstein's Real Men Don't Eat Quiche, published in 1982. The bestseller poked fun at quiche for being effeminate. So influential was Feirstein's book that the Columbus Dispatch reported quiche sales dropped precipitously as men everywhere immediately stopped eating the tasty pastry. Now, however, quiche is making a comeback, and it's high time too. Not only is it great for any meal of the day, but perhaps best of all, it's so versatile that you can make one with almost any filling you want. By 2020, quiche was in the headlines again when the Dallas Morning News observed that quiche is emerging once again because quiche is all things to all meals. The answer to what is for breakfast, lunch, brunch, or dinner had fruit for breakfast or brunch, or salad for lunch or dinner, and meals are complete. The late great chef, Paul Prudhomme, has been credited with introducing the world to blackened redfish. Prudhomme's innovation, which introduced the nation to the sheer bliss that resulted from combining a well-buttered thin redfish fillet with a spice mixture. It single-handedly brought Cajun food to prominence in the 1980s. In fact, the Cajun trend became so hot in the 1980s when Prudhomme opened a pop-up version of his legendary New Orleans restaurant, K. Paul's, on New York City's Upper West Side. In 1985, it drew a crowd of 250 people, even after the New York City Health Department shut the place down temporarily over hygiene concerns. In the years that followed, redfish became so popular that it became overfished, to the point where it is no longer legal to fish for it in most of the U.S. But who needs redfish when you can enhance just about any animal protein by coating it with butter and blackening spices and allowing it to char? Especially when those blackening spices are now readily available, pre-mixed at virtually any supermarket. Food bloggers everywhere soon announced that with or without redfish, blackening was ready for its comeback. And it was true. Blackened has even lent its name to the 80s band Metallica's own brand of high-end whiskey, which launched in 2018 and is still earning raves. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more matched videos.
What's redfish?
Fish that's red.
Is it
It's
like
a
a
type of fish.
type of fish?
Yeah,
Oh.
fish.
I wasn't sure if it was referring to like a type of like salmon or things like that.
No, it's the redfish.
Never heard of it.
No.
Like
A lot of them
fish.
though, I would have thought that's just constantly always been quite popular though, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Especially
Like
buffalo
cereal.
wings. That was just
French
sugar.
onion soup.
Yeah, a few there, which I agree with you there, Aidan. I think a lot of them, what they're referring to for 80s making a comeback.
Like
No,
they're making it
frozen
seem like
meals.
no one really ate them throughout the 2000s and 90s, and then now they're coming
and
back.
lean cuisine frozen meals as well. I seem to think they've always been around.
Maybe they have here.
Yeah,
But I used to eat them all the time. I used to have them for my lunch at work.
yeah.
Do you have them in the? Are they in the UK or is it just in America?
Yeah,
In cuisine,
UK
yeah,
as well, yeah.
I've never seen one in my life.
Really?
We have like the
No.
Weight Watchers ones, don't we?
Yeah,
But
but
never
yeah,
seen
lean cuisine used to be over here.
them. Oh.
I've
seen it.
Yeah. Like Aidan says there, I think many of them have always been here. I think.
Yeah, ramen.
Popcorn flavour and the popcorn flavours I'm not sure about, but that seems to be a
Mate,
new thing.
them popcorn flavours were getting out of hand.
But I bet they're nice.
They were.
I've tried
Gin
Gin
and
and tonic.
No, because they're just like crisp flavours, aren't they?
Yeah, but how many crisp flavours do you know that are
Gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic or watermelon?
Yeah.
None.
Bit strange.
But salt and vinegar popcorn's lovely. I've tried salt and vinegar popcorn.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
Because that's like, you
Yeah.
put salt
Because it's a
in
nice
regular
flavour.
food, wouldn't you?
It's a nice flavour on a lot of things, but when you have there was other stuff like bacon or something.
Bacon and cheddar.
Bacon and cheddar. I mean, guess that.
There's like a
that-
pizza
Yeah,
one
yeah.
as well.
Pizza.
Pizza,
I
some
think
odd
they'd be
ones.
nice.
But then
Okay.
the gin and tonic like that's
But
nasty.
Fruit Loops, they're flavoured with fruit, so that's then like watermelon popcorn. It's probably the same.
Yeah, probably right. Could be. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting.
Yes.
I think most of them are there, like you say.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please,
Yes.
and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers.
Bye.